It started with a knock. Not the dramatic kind you hear in movies, just 3 polite taps. Barely enough to draw me from the living room. But I remember the sound exactly. That knock changed everything. I opened the door, expecting a delivery guy, maybe a neighbor. Instead, there was this guy standing there, young, well-dressed, confident in a way that made you instinctively straighten your posture. Too put together for a salesman. Too casual for a cop. "You must be Ben Carter," he said, already smiling like he knew the answer. "Depends who's asking," I replied, halfway between polite and guarded. He extended his hand. "Ethan, I work with your wife." That should have been the end of it. A quick handshake, maybe a message relayed. But the way he said it, "your wife," sounded too familiar. Like he was testing out the word on his tongue. "My wife's upstairs," I said. "She didn't mention anyone stopping by." "She wouldn't have," he said, looking past me, like he already knew what the inside of my house looked like. I didn't invite him in. He didn't ask. Instead, he pulled a small envelope from his coat pocket and held it out. "Give this to her," he said. "She'll know." I took it, confused. He turned and walked away like a man who'd finished what he came for. Not a glance back. Just gone. The envelope was thin, unsealed. Inside was a photo. I wasn't ready for it. It was Claire, my wife, sitting across from him in what looked like a cafe I knew too well. Her hand rested on his. Her smile wasn't the one she gave coworkers. And Ethan? He was looking at her the way a man looks at something he thinks he owns. The timestamp was from last Thursday. She told me she had a late meeting. And the dress? The one I complimented before she left. "You look amazing tonight." I remember that clearly. She laughed, kissed my cheek, said, "You always say that." Yes, Ethan said it too. I walked upstairs with the photo in my hand, moving on muscle memory more than thought. Claire was in the bathroom, humming. She always hummed when she was nervous. She came out holding a towel, still damp from the shower, and smiled like nothing was wrong. "Hey, babe." Who was at the door? I held up the photo. Her smile didn't fade right away. It twitched, froze, and then dropped completely. I didn't say a word, just watched. Her eyes darted between the photo and my face. "Ben." "I can explain. I haven't asked a question yet. I was going to tell you." "When? Before or after the next cafe date?" She wrapped the towel tighter around her. Not out of modesty, more like defense. It wasn't serious. That made me laugh. Quiet. Bitter. "You let him come to my door, Claire." Her lips parted like she wanted to say something clever, something smooth. But nothing came out. I left the photo on the counter. Didn't slam a door. Didn't yell. But something in me shifted. Something that didn't shift back. You'd think after a stunt like that, Claire would panic, cry, beg. But Claire wasn't built like that. She was composed. When I didn't speak to her that night, not a single word, she didn't come to the guest room. No dramatic apologies. No sobbing at the door. Just silence. Like we were roommates who'd missed each other in passing. The next morning, she made French toast. "Your favorite," she said, plating it like nothing happened. She even added powdered sugar, like some tragic garnish on top of betrayal. I looked at the plate, then at her. "You think French toast's gonna fix this?" She blinked. "I'm trying." "No," I said. "You're performing. There's a difference." She dropped the spatula. It clattered against the pan, the sound sharp enough to rattle the silence between us. "Okay," she snapped. "Do you want to talk about it?" "No," I said, pushing the plate aside. "I want to understand something. Did he tell you to give me that photo? Or was that your idea of closure?" Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. He said I needed to come clean," she said finally. "He thought it would be better if it came from me. But I couldn't." I froze. "So he decided to help." She nodded, slowly. "I didn't know he was going to show up. I swear." I looked at her for a long time. She couldn't hold eye contact. Her fingers fiddled with the edge of a napkin. She always did that when she lied. Like the truth was something she had to fold small enough to hide in her pocket. "He loves me," she said. That was the first punch. Not literal. Just sharp. Effective. "And you?" I asked. She hesitated. "I don't know. Honest. Maybe too honest." I stood up, took the car keys off the hook. She stepped in front of the door. "Ben, wait." I didn't shove her. Didn't yell. I just tilted my head. "You moved him into my space," I said. "You don't get to block the door now." She stepped aside. I drove. Nowhere in particular. Past 3 gas stations, a closed library, and that park where I once asked her to move in with me. Back then, she cried. Said yes before I even finished the sentence. Funny how fast things rot when you're not watching. By noon, I was at my brother's place. He opened the door in gym shorts and no shirt, holding a protein shake and looking confused. "Claire," he asked. "Still married to her?" "For now," I replied. He didn't ask more, just stepped aside and said, "Guest room's clean. You want a drink? Only if it's strong or comes with a side of better decisions." He handed me a beer and sat on the couch. And that's when I said it out loud for the first time. She cheated. With a guy she works with. He let out a low whistle. I didn't expect sympathy. Not from Ryan. My brother has the emotional range of a toolbox. But he did look at me the way you look at a friend who just realized his house was built on a sinkhole. "You want revenge?" he asked, half joking. "No," I said. "I want the truth. Then maybe I'll decide what I want." "Careful," he said. "Truth doesn't always come in neat little packages." "I'm not asking for neat," I replied. "I'm asking for everything." And in that moment, I meant it. I didn't want to patch things up. I wanted to understand the size of the wound. That was the day I stopped being a husband and started becoming something else. Something quieter, sharper, dangerous. There's a point, right between heartbreak and clarity, where your brain stops asking why and starts asking how deep. That's where I was, sitting on my brother's couch, staring at a muted basketball game, half a beer warm in my hand, and wondering how long she'd been slipping away without making a sound. Ryan was asleep by 10. Guy lives like he's training for a triathlon that never comes. I, on the other hand, spent most of the night on his back patio with a legal pad and pen. That's how I work. I write lists, timelines, facts. Step 1. I remembered the night she said she was working late and came home in full makeup with a gift bag from a brand I didn't recognize. Step 2. The trip to Chicago for a conference that got extended an extra day because her flight was canceled. Step 3. The text she sent someone named E. Not saved as Ethan. Just E. It said, "Made it out in time." He bought it. That one hurt. A different kind of hurt. Strategic. Coordinated. It wasn't an accident. It was a plan. So I got smarter. I logged into our shared cell plan online. Not to check messages. That's illegal. I'm not trying to catch a charge, but the metadata? The times and durations of calls. That's fair game. Ethan's number showed up 16 times in a 2-week window. Always after 10 p.m. Always after I was asleep. I took notes. Then I checked our joint calendar. Claire used to be obsessive about keeping it updated. Color-coded events. Meeting reminders. Spa appointments. All of it there. But over the last 3 months, practically blank. Except one recurring event every Thursday at 6 p.m. just labeled Pilates, don't reschedule. We both know Claire hates Pilates. It was all coming into focus like a Polaroid developing under a heat lamp. And the picture? It wasn't pretty. Still, I hadn't said a word to her. She texted the next morning. "Claire, I think we should talk tonight. Can you come home?" Me, busy. Claire, "Please, Ben." Me, later. Simple. Measured. Enough to let her know I was still on the board. Just not playing her game. That afternoon, I drove past her office. Call it petty. Call it recon. Either way, I was there. I watched her leave at 5:53 p.m. in the blue coat she only wears when she's dressing for someone else. She didn't head to the gym. She drove to a restaurant in the next town over. Classy, dim lighting, valet. I parked across the street and waited. And right on cue, Ethan arrived. Not in work clothes. Not by accident. He pulled up in a charcoal BMW and walked in like he'd done it 100 times. Dinner for 2. No tension. No secrecy. Just familiarity. Like I was the side plot in a movie she stopped watching. I snapped a photo through the windshield. Grainy, but clear enough. Her hand on his arm. His thumb tracing circles on her wrist. She used to flinch when I did that. Said it tickled. I sat there for 20 minutes. Car running. AC humming. Heart like wet concrete in my chest. Then I drove away. Didn't follow them home. Didn't want to know how far it went. Not yet. Because I wasn't done gathering. People think betrayal looks like screaming matches and slamming doors. But it doesn't. It looks like subtle reroutes. Shifted glances. A hand lingering on the wrong name in a phone. It's your toothbrush staying dry for a week before you even notice. And that's what I was living through now. The slow, deliberate realization that my wife had stopped choosing me and didn't think I'd notice. But I noticed. After the dinner stakeout, I didn't go back to Ryan's place. I checked into a mid-range hotel with zero personality and a view of the HVAC system. Perfect. You don't need scenic views when you're rebuilding your sense of self. I brought my laptop. Not for work, not for distraction, but for the mission. I opened a new document and titled it, Claire, Record of Events. Clean. Clinical. Just like the marriage had become. I started building a timeline. Not the emotional one, the forensic one. Real data. The kind that doesn't flinch or exaggerate. Thursday, March 9th. She told me she was working late. Office lights were off when I drove past. Saturday, March 18th. She claimed to be at brunch with her old college roommate. The same roommate posted a photo from Nashville that weekend. Claire was not in it. Tuesday, April 4th. Ethan's number logged at 11:08 p.m., 17-minute call. I was in bed by 10:30. Wednesday, April 12th. Bought a new bra. Tags left in the trash. Not my favorite style, his. Each entry hurt less than the one before. That's the funny thing about heartbreak. The more you stack it, the less personal it starts to feel. Like reading someone else's case file. By day 3, I had 42 entries. And not one good excuse among them. Claire texted again. Claire, I made dinner. It's your favorite. Me. Not hungry. Claire, can you just come home? Me, why? So you can practice your apology in front of a live audience. No response after that. Progress. I wasn't avoiding confrontation. I was curating it. Timing matters. If you pull the trigger too soon, you just graze the target. I wanted impact. So I kept digging. That Thursday, I went into the office, not mine, hers. Not inside, of course. I sat in the cafe across the street, ordered black coffee, and watched her walk out at 5:59. Ethan was waiting by her car, leaning casually like a guy in a Hallmark movie. They hugged, but not a normal hug. A we've shared secrets hug. The kind where the head tucks into the shoulder a little too easily. The kind that comes with a scent memory baked in. I filmed it. Just 30 seconds. No zoom, no drama. Just the truth, slow and brutal. I sent it to myself. Subject line, Evidence, Volume 3. And then came the mistake. I went back to our house. Not to talk, just to pick up a few things. I had every intention of grabbing my spare suit, my documents, and leaving. But something pulled me into the kitchen. Familiarity, maybe. Stupidity, probably. She was there, wearing a t-shirt I'd outgrown and no makeup. She looked ordinary, like the version of her I used to get on Sundays, the one that didn't belong to anyone else. Ben, she said, surprised but not startled. I texted you 3 times, she added. You ignoring me now? I shrugged. Wouldn't want to interrupt your Pilates. That one landed. She put down the mug she was holding. You followed me. I watched you, I corrected. Following sounds obsessive. This was research. Her jaw tightened. So what's the plan? You gonna leave or stay and sulk? I tilted my head. You really want to play this like I'm the one sulking? She crossed her arms. I didn't sleep with him, Ben. That's supposed to be a trophy or a technicality? Silence. Then she whispered. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Claire, I said, people don't trip and fall into months of deception. That takes planning, coordination, Google Calendar invites. I was lonely. That one stung. Then say that, I said. Be honest. Don't gaslight me while you get your emotional needs met at the hotel buffet. She took a breath, opened her mouth, and closed it again, like she was out of lines from the script. So I gave her a new one. I know everything, I said, voice low. The phone logs, the photos, the fake Pilates, the working late lies. Ethan on our porch. Her face crumpled, just slightly. A crack in the veneer. You were going to leave me quietly, weren't you? I asked. Just fade out until I did the hard part for you. She looked down, said nothing. I nodded, more to myself than to her. Okay. Then I grabbed my bag, turned, and left. Simple. No dramatic exit. No slamming doors. But here's the thing. You can only lie to someone who's still listening. And I wasn't that I didn't go back to the hotel that night. Didn't go back to Ryan's place either. I drove. Nowhere in particular. Just highways, exit signs, and late-night gas stations with fluorescent lights that buzzed like they knew something. At 1 a.m., I parked near an overlook I used to visit in college. Back when life felt endless and nothing felt like betrayal. I sat on the hood of my car with a convenience store sandwich in one hand and my phone in the other, scrolling through the folder I now called the dossier. 47 photos. 11 videos. 3 text message threads I screenshotted when Claire left her laptop open that one time back in February. And 1 spreadsheet. A neat little tracker of calls, calendar gaps, and timestamps that told the story her mouth refused to. It didn't make me feel better, but it made me feel prepared. I wasn't spiraling. I wasn't unraveling. I was planning. Claire thought I'd implode. She thought I'd shout, cry, leave dramatically, then come back after the storm passed to apologize for being overly sensitive. She had no idea that I don't do storms. I do blueprints. That weekend, I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to in 5 years, Kyle DeSoto. Kyle was the kind of friend you didn't keep around for casual Sunday barbecues. He was the guy you called when you needed a digital ghost, a fake email chain, or a video to disappear from the internet like it never existed. We met in college when he got expelled for rerouting a professor's payroll into a Bitcoin wallet. I defended him at the student board hearing. He still owes me for that. Ben Carter, Kyle said when he picked up, his voice all gravel and energy drinks. Either you're dying or plotting. Which is it? Plotting, I said. Good. Dying's boring. What's the situation? Infidelity, I said. Complicated. Coordinated. Public. He whistled. Oof. You want digital cleanup or creative sabotage? Little of both. We met at a diner off the interstate the next day. Kyle still wore hoodies in July and carried 2 burner phones like a man allergic to stability. I showed him the folder. He scrolled through it in silence, nodding occasionally. She's neat, he said, half admiringly. Careful. Deletes messages. No obvious paper trail. She got comfortable, I said. And arrogant. He grinned. Those are the best kinds. Kyle's suggestion was simple. Make her live in the truth. No explosions. No scandals. Just reality, slowly turned up until she can't breathe. It sounded about right. We started small. First, Kyle created a fake consulting firm, Brightwave Strategies. Looked real. Website, LinkedIn page, even a fake HR contact number. Then he sent Claire an email from Brightwave, a recruiter offering her a once-in-a-lifetime position as a communications lead. Huge salary. Remote flexibility. All she had to do was submit a writing sample and attend an in-person interview. We knew she'd bite. Claire was always chasing the next shiny step on the ladder. While she polished her resume and typed out her vision for the future of digital branding, ironically, a future she wouldn't be part of, I was meeting with my lawyer, Amy Cho, the kind of attorney who wore plain suits and wielded silence like a scalpel. Do you want blood or dignity? She asked during our first sit-down. Both, I said. Amy smiled faintly. We'll start with dignity. I handed her a copy of the dossier. She glanced at it, then slid it back across the table. We don't need all this, she said. We only need one clean hit. Proof of infidelity pre-separation. That's leverage. You'll get it, I said. Meanwhile, Claire was still texting me. Casual, vague, like she was trying to keep a tether without making it obvious. Claire, I think about you a lot lately. Claire, the house feels empty. Claire, I'm sorry for how I made you feel. Not sorry for what she did. Just sorry for the fallout. Classic. I didn't respond. Let the silence sit. Let her feel the delay, the lack of reaction. That's what she really feared, being ignored. Then came the Sunday I'd been waiting for. I knew from her calendar, yes, I still had access, thank you, Google Sync, that she had brunch scheduled with her sister. Claire would be out of the house by 11:15. So I showed up at 11:20. The house was quiet. Still smelled like citrus cleaner and lavender, the scent she used when she was trying to create a version of our life that didn't exist anymore. I wasn't there to steal. Wasn't there to damage anything. I was there to leave a gift. I went into the guest room, my old office, and placed a manila envelope on the desk. Inside was a copy of the dossier on a thumb drive, a printed screenshot of her and Ethan holding hands outside the restaurant, a post-it note. Simple. 5 words, black ink, steady handwriting. I know. I don't forget. I left quietly, locking the door behind me, drove back to the hotel and waited. 3 hours later, my phone buzzed. Claire, can we please talk? I didn't answer. Then came another. Claire, Ben, I'm sorry. Please, just tell me what you want. I wanted a lot of things. But for now, I wanted her to stew in it. To feel the heat slowly rise. To realize the room she thought she controlled was actually a furnace I built. Kyle texted later that night. Kyle, she applied for the job. Interviews Tuesday. Want me to schedule the meeting? I replied with one word. Yes. Claire had no idea she was walking into a trap disguised as a conference room. She wanted out. She was about to get it, just not the way she planned. Claire wore blue when she wanted to impress. Navy blazer, light silk blouse, heels with that soft click that sounded confident but not aggressive. I knew the outfit before she even stepped out the door that morning, because she'd worn it the day she interviewed for her last promotion, and the day she met my parents. Polished, respectable, trustworthy. She didn't know the whole day was already burning behind the curtain. Kyle had done his part. Brightwave Strategies had scheduled her final interview for 11 a.m. at an upscale co-working suite downtown. It had a real receptionist, real coffee, even a real lobby directory with Brightwave, Suite 402 printed neatly on the wall. Kyle rented it for 48 hours, just long enough for the performance. He hired an actor to play the recruiter, some semi-pro named Maddox with perfect hair and a handshake built for trust. Claire would sit in that room with her resume and her best elevator pitch, not knowing that the walls were wired for sound and every second was being streamed directly to me. Not that I needed a live feed. The plan was never to catch her. It was to expose her professionally, personally, and thoroughly. But still, I watched. From a small tablet in my car, parked 5 blocks away, windows cracked just enough for the breeze and the guilt to drift in. Claire entered the suite at exactly 10:57. Punctual, of course. She shook Maddox's hand, settled into the chair with her legs crossed neatly, and said something I couldn't hear, but the smile told me it was her opener. Probably her line about how she's passionate about narrative design and organizational synergy. Maddox nodded, played his part. They chatted for a few minutes. He asked about her background, her management style, what she thought of the current branding trends in tech. She answered flawlessly. Charismatic, focused, and fake. Then he asked the final question, Kyle's edition. So, Claire, last question. And I like to throw this one in for fun. She nodded, leaning in. She always leaned in when she thought she was nailing it. Tell me about a time, Maddox said smoothly, when you had to keep a secret. Something difficult. Something no one else knew. Claire blinked. Just once. Then she laughed. Oh, wow, she said. That's a curveball. Maddox smiled. Just something light. Doesn't have to be work-related. She paused, tilted her head, and said it. I guess I'd say, this year. I went through something complicated. Maddox raised his eyebrows. Tell me more. She looked down at her hands, then back up, carefully composed. I was in a marriage that started to feel like autopilot. No big explosions. Just silence. I didn't feel seen anymore. And what did you do? He asked. Her smile was tight. I found someone who reminded me I was alive. Maddox nodded like a man who wasn't about to blow the whistle. She continued, emboldened. It wasn't planned. It wasn't even physical at first. Just connection. Late-night talks. Shared jokes. It felt like I was waking up after years of sleep. She looked proud. And I sat in my car, watching her confess my erasure like it was a cute anecdote for a job interview. Kyle's voice pinged into my earpiece. We got what we need. Want me to kill the feed? I didn't answer for a few seconds. Then, Kyle asked. Let it run, I said. Let's see how far she wants to go. Claire finished with, we're still figuring it out, but I've made peace with what I left behind. It just wasn't where I was supposed to be anymore. Maddox smiled warmly. That's brave. And honest. I appreciate that. She glowed. She thought she'd just aced a test. She didn't know it was a confession. The interview ended with a handshake, a promise to follow up, and Claire walking out like she'd earned something. She had. Just not what she thought. By 2 p.m., I had the footage clipped, the audio isolated, and the quote transcribed on the first page of a letterhead titled, Motion for Divorce, Grounds, Adultery, and Emotional Abandonment. Amy Cho, my attorney, watched the whole thing twice before looking up. This is more than enough, she said. You want me to file today? No, I said. Not yet. Amy raised an eyebrow. You waiting on something? Yeah, I said. I'm giving her one last chance. To what? Lie again. To tell the truth, I replied. Not because I need to hear it. Because I want to see what she does when she knows I already know. That night, Claire came home humming. She made spaghetti, set the table, poured 2 glasses of wine. Like we were still doing the charade. I didn't touch my plate. She glanced at me. You okay? Long day, I said. She sipped her wine. Mine was good. I had an interview. Oh, I asked, eyes on the rim of my glass. She smiled. Yeah, this company reached out. Brightwave. Great vibe. Small but growing. Really respected my experience. I said. She leaned on the table, eyes bright. It felt validating. Like someone finally saw me. Did you tell them about us? I asked. She blinked. What do you mean? Your marriage, I said calmly. The husband waiting at home while you rebuilt your life in secret. Her hand froze on the glass. Ben, I just want to know what version of us you pitched, I said. She sat back slowly. It wasn't like that. No, I said, reaching into my jacket pocket. It was like this. I slid the transcript across the table. She picked it up, scanned the top line. Then her eyes stopped. I found someone who reminded me I was alive. Her hand shook slightly. She looked up. You recorded me? No, I said. You recorded you. I just watched. Silence. She opened her mouth to speak, but for once, I didn't care what she'd say. I'm filing tomorrow, I said. You'll get the papers by Friday. She didn't beg. She didn't cry. She just sat there, like a magician who finally realized the audience already knew how the trick was done. After Claire read that transcript, she did what all guilty people do when they run out of lies. They defaulted to nostalgia. She spent the next 2 days sending messages like, Remember Maine? I missed your coffee. The way you lined up the spoons. Can we talk before lawyers get involved? But nostalgia doesn't undo betrayal. It just paints over it in softer colors. On Friday, the divorce papers arrived by courier. Signed. Dated. Neatly prepared by Amy Cho, who called me that morning with a smirk in her voice. She's stalling, Amy said. But she knows it's over. Let her stall, I said. I'm not here for her pace. And that brings us to Ethan. The man who thought he could insert himself into my life like a software update. Seamless. Disruptive. Unasked for. He made one mistake. He left a trail. See, Claire may have cleaned up texts, but Ethan? Ethan had an Instagram profile. And one careless comment on a friend's post led me to a private business account he used for side gigs. Speaking engagements. Podcast interviews. I listened to one. Boring stuff. Modern marketing principles, emotional connection with brands. But at the 14-minute mark, he said something interesting. Authenticity is everything. Even in personal life. You can't fake real connection. I bookmarked that timestamp. Labeled it, irony.wave. I sent it to his employer. Not anonymously. Professionally. With a note that read, As a concerned party, I thought you might want to know how your director of client engagement spends his evenings with client spouses. You might consider if that aligns with your brand values. Attached are the details. I never heard back. But 3 days later, Ethan's bio disappeared from the company's leadership page. Poof. A clean little consequence. No violence. No drama. Just the truth, walking in with its shoes on. Claire requested a meeting. In person. No lawyers. At first, I ignored it. But then I realized something. This wasn't a woman asking for forgiveness. This was a woman trying to manage optics. So I agreed. 1 hour. Neutral location. Public. We met at a park bench near the river. I brought nothing but a bottle of water and a folding chair, just so she'd know I wasn't planning to get comfortable. She was already sitting when I arrived. Hair down. Sweater too soft. Makeup aimed at looking like she wasn't wearing any. She started with, Thank you for coming. I didn't answer. Then she said the thing they always say, I didn't mean for it to happen this way. I let that hang in the air like a cheap perfume. She went on. I know I hurt you. I've been doing a lot of thinking. I was afraid. I felt lost. And now? I asked. She looked at me like that was the invitation she'd been waiting for. Now I know I made a mistake. Which part? I asked. The cheating? The lying? Or the thinking I'd never find out? Her eyes dropped. All of it. I nodded. So what's this meeting for? Closure? Forgiveness? One last act in the tragedy? She blinked back something. Regret, maybe. Or just the realization that I wasn't going to cry this time. I wanted to say I'm sorry, she said. Good, I replied. Now you've said it. Silence again. She didn't ask for another chance. That part, at least, she seemed to understand. I stood up. You don't get to rewrite this. You don't get to spin it. You wanted something else, Claire. And now you have it. She nodded once. Small. Almost grateful. I walked away without looking back. The apology wasn't for me. It was for her. The next month was quiet. Too quiet, if I'm honest. I moved out of the city, took a contract job 2 states over. Remote. Flexible. Paid just enough to keep the fridge full and the silence comfortable. I started running again. I rebuilt the bookshelf I always said I'd get around to. I deleted our wedding playlist from my phone. Kept the songs, just renamed the folder. Lessons learned. Claire sent a final message after the divorce finalized. It read, "I hope you're okay. I still think about you. I hope one day you'll remember the good parts, too." I didn't respond. Because I do remember the good parts. I just remember the ending better. I was sitting at a diner one morning, halfway through a decent omelet and bad coffee, when I saw it. Ethan. 2 tables over. Alone. Wearing a suit a little too crisp for a Tuesday morning. He didn't see me. At first, I thought about walking out, letting the past stay dead. But then I remembered something my father used to say. You don't bury the hatchet until you know where it landed. So I walked up to him. "Ethan," I said. His head jerked like I'd slapped the back of it. He looked up, blinked, smiled nervously. "Ben." "Hey, I didn't see you." "No, I imagine you don't see a lot of things coming." He opened his mouth, closed it, then said, "Look, I never meant for." "Don't." I held up a hand. "This isn't that conversation." He sat back, silent. "I just wanted to thank you," I said. "For what?" he asked cautiously. "For reminding me that some people don't value what they have until someone else takes it. And by then, it's already worthless." He winced. Subtle, but satisfying. I placed a folded note on the table. He looked at it. "What's this?" "Your reminder," I said. "Frame it. Burn it. Doesn't matter. But don't forget it." I walked out. Didn't touch my coffee. In the parking lot, I smiled to myself. Because I hadn't written anything cruel in the note. Just one sentence. "You didn't steal her from me. You borrowed her from who she pretended to be."